You for that. And joining us now live is Hussam Alouish, the executive director of the LA office of the Council of American Islamic Relations. And we're so glad that we have you joining us this morning, because as we just reported a few moments ago, many are now waking up to reports of that 6-year-old, a Palestinian-American boy, being stabbed to death in Illinois. His mother also attacked there. The president put out a statement condemning the murder. Is that enough?
Well, it's very tragic what we heard yesterday. The whole community was shaken up, all the American Muslim community, because in a sad way we anticipated this would happen. You know, when you continue to fuel a narrative of hate, a narrative of confrontation, a narrative that blames the Palestinian people, eventually someone takes that as a sign to go or maybe a justification to target. So a statement is a good step in the right direction, but what is more important is putting a stop to this rhetoric of tension, a rhetoric of polarization that is coming all the way up from the president. I hate to put that, but the president is the one who lost ability to lead responsibly. He's a leader, he's the president. He should be building consensus towards an easing of the tension rather than fueling it, as he's been doing for the last 7 or 8 days.
Yeah, and your message is that it should really be stressed that Hamas is a terrorist organization. That's who's carrying out these attacks in Israel, and so that's what the emphasis needs to be on. Arab, Muslim, and Palestinian rights advocates in the U.S. have denounced Washington's unconditional support for Israel's war in Gaza. What do you want people to know that your group feels isn't being reported?
Basically, exactly what you just said earlier. Yes, everybody condemns the killing of any innocent person, whether it's Israeli, Palestinian, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, or any. No innocent person should ever face threat, terrorism, killing, murder. But the problem is when we talk about this issue, it almost seems like this is something that started on Saturday, October 7th. The context of misery, of dispossession that has existed has been missing, especially from our government. Instead of addressing the humanity and the dignity of every human being, we focused on only one, with a very one-sided view, and more importantly, the root cause of this issue. This thing did not happen, as they say, unprovoked. This is after 75 years of Palestinians being subjected to a very brutal occupation, dispossession, what every human rights organization, including Israeli ones, have said: an apartheid system, checkpoints, abuses, ethnic cleansing, loss of land. Gaza wasn't a Hawaiian vacation resort. Gaza has been subjected to one of the most brutal modern-day blockades and siege by Israel and Egypt, depriving the Palestinian people from basic livelihood. So the outburst that happened, as terrible as it is to lose even one innocent life, cannot be seen without seeing the context of what has been happening to the Palestinian people, which I rarely get invited to talk about it. The Palestinian human life does not seem to be interesting the White House. It is only when an Israeli life is targeted that suddenly we pay attention that there is a conflict that has been going on, that the Palestinians have paid the price for the most part, over the last 75 years. This is the longest occupation in our modern time as we speak today.
Well, and I think we've, as a society, it speaks to a bigger conversation that needs to take place of being able to hold two different ideas. We've siloed ourselves so much in so many of these cases. I do want to ask you before we go, though, on the ground now, it looks like Hamas's strategy is to operate out of civilian targets like homes, hospitals, and mosques. Are families in Gaza in an impossible situation right now? Because that would mean many more civilians would be killed.
Well, that's another myth that sometimes our mainstream media innocently keep repeating. That is not true. Human rights activists, UN, international activists, and observers have made it very clear. There are no militants in the residential towers that have been built. Complete neighborhoods have been obliterated. Complete tower buildings, apartment complexes, mosques, hospitals, clinics, schools. What Israel is doing is clearly, and everybody knows that. I mean, it's just everybody in the world except us in America, apparently. Israel is engaged in a collective punishment of the Palestinian people for what happened on Saturday, October 7th. And the overwhelming majority of the people in Gaza are children. They are children. That's a majority of people. Are the children members of Hamas or PLO or Fatah? No, they're not. And Israel knows that very well. The overwhelming majority of the victims have been civilians. As we speak, 750 children have died in Gaza over the last 6 days. Who is talking about them? This is war crimes. Israel has cut off water, gas, fuel, food, medicine on the people of Gaza, which is the most densely populated area in the world today, and which is basically an open-air prison and now becoming an open-air concentration and extermination camp. The solution is not to keep going through what we call a cycle of tit-for-tat attacks. The solution is ending the root cause of this whole conflict, and that is the illegal Israeli occupation. The UN has asked for that, the world community has asked for that, and Israel refuses to end this illegal and brutal occupation. Israelis, Palestinians alike deserve peace, but there wouldn't be peace as long as this occupation remains.
But again, nothing justifies an attack on innocent people on either side.
Yeah. Well, as this conversation continues to evolve, we'd like to continue to check in with you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.